Lovely, 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 wonderful people. A pleasant afternoon to you. Beautiful people. I don't know. Tell me something. Are Jamaicans going crazy? Are we losing our minds? Or is it that we have no form of accountability and we feel that because we have freedom of speech, freedom of choice, that we think it is in the absolute, that you just do any and everything, or you say any and everything without any form of repercussion? And I'm saying that in light of, I saw a gentleman, he was, telling the people that he's vlogging to tell a particular podcaster, local podcaster, that he wants to come on his show. He wants to be interviewed. Lo and behold, I watched a part of the clipping of the interview and I was totally embarrassed, to say the least. I was incensed, meaning I was kind of angry and very much annoyed and wondered how it is that it was allowed to play on airwaves. There is nothing that is remaining tabooed or secret or confidential, let us put it that way, to protect our families. The man sought to embarrass his mother and he didn't even realize that. And he promulgated it as a joke. Something that should have remained secret, that he should not have even mentioned to anybody. Now we live in a world where people have experienced so many different things. Some things that you can't even begin to imagine. And it is very, very embarrassing and humiliating. And this fellow began to express, that when his mother was in a sexual encounter with a man, that he would peep through the hole or he would hear the sounds, one of the two, something of the sort. I may not get it exactly verbatim, but he would hear or see the act going on, either of the two or maybe both. And then he would get his kicks on, pull his private area out and begin to jerk off. How can you get up and come on the media and speak like that as it relates to your mother, in light of your mother? And I don't want people to say, boy, they don't know better. They're not. It has nothing to do with formal education. There are some things, beautiful people. We have our 5 senses, they say. Some people say it's more than 5. But let us work with the 5. The seeing, the tasting, the hearing, the touching, and all of that. And there are some things that it most, if not all people know, that you honor your father and your mother. And that one of the ways in honoring is that you hold some things personal. Something like that he knows without a shadow of a doubt, as a big man, as an adult, that you don't get up and speak about. But you see, for the Benjamins, for the dollar, anything to get very popular, anything to get fame or anything to get fortune, even if it means I have to humiliate my parents, I have to humiliate my mother, I am going to do it. It is a shame and a disgrace, and that should not have been played on airwaves. That is embarrassing. Now I can imagine how that mother must have felt if she's alive. Or even family members who are remaining. Why would you do that? Why would... We are losing our minds. And there has to be a capping on the things that we post on social media. We cannot... It's almost like everybody's just eating junk food right through and through. Everybody's going to be diabetic, hypertensive, and with the possibility of developing chronic illnesses and diseases to their demise ultimately. And I'm talking in a social sense. You cannot just continue to consume. It's getting worse and worse without any form of boundary. That's a disrespect to his mother. He should never have come on the podcaster's program to say he got his kicks from either seeing or hearing or whatever. But he's in close sight, sound and sight of his mother's sexual engagement. And that he got his kicks and pulled his thing out. What kind of a nastiness and junk and craziness is going on in our country? And that podcaster should be ashamed of himself to even allow it to be posted. But anything, as I said, for the fame and for the fortune. This is that's so embarrassing. And if his mother is alive, I can imagine how she must have felt. And people who are familiar with them, is going to, and when they see the mother, probably be laughing and mocking and all of that. They need to put in some sort of a law or policy where things like these do not happen. We can't just take freedom and liberty at will. We can't take freedom of choice and speech at will. We can't just do that. There has to be a capping. There has to be a boundary. Freedom of choice. That's not what the freedom of choice or freedom of speech meant, It is talking about freedom of choice, meaning we are free of injustice. We are free of unfairness. That is what freedom of speech and freedom of choice is talking about. That all things should be equitable. Equality is a different thing. Because equity and equality, they're two different things. Equity you give based on need. You understand? Equality means even if you don't need it, I'm giving you because I gave that one that. And you may not necessarily need something to be on an equilibrium in that sense. But you need it to be equitable. You need it to be fair. You need it to be just. That's what freedom of speech is. It doesn't mean that you go out of the boundary. It does not mean that you go out. That's a disrespect. And he's a big person. He's not a child. I could not believe that he was begging to go on the platform. And when he went, he's going to talk about when he heard or saw his mother, whether in sound or sight. It turned him on so much that he pulled this thing. What kind of a sickening, disgusting thing is going on in our country? And the powers that be need to regulate some of these things, This is crazy. It's a shame and a disgrace. It is a shame and a disgrace, to say the very least. And I hope things like these, there's a cap in, we put a cap in. This is madness. We can't just sit down and just accept this crazy. When they think about Jamaica TikTok, it's either some vulgarity or vulgarism, something lewd and crude, tearing people down, envy, bad mind, nothing positive. And I can tell you, people are not gifted on positivity. It's hardly viewed. It is hardly shared. People, you will become socially, spiritually, psychologically, mentally, and ultimately financially diabetic, hypertensive, filled with tumors. It will damage you in those ways. You have to be careful of what it is that you're taking in your brain. I remember I was listening to something and they said some studies show that you reduce Alzheimer's when you do a lot of reading, because you're training the brain to be effective and to be efficient. You cannot train your brain on madness and on nonsense and on something that is very lewd and crude and illicit. That's a disrespect and a dishonor to his mother. I am very, very disappointed that that podcaster even carried it. That's rude. And you know that a lot of people are listening, children are listening, because they have a way of getting this information, because people are going to take the thing and post it on the different social media platforms. It's going to go viral. This is crazy. Can anything good come out of Jamaica? Yes. Yes. But we have to be determined and we have to be intentional in that. That should never have been posted. What's going on? Why is it that we're promulgating that we're these kinds of people so much? Let me tell you, podcasters and vloggers and so on, you have to be very, and the people who are supporting it. You see, I heard a girl saying it, if you become very lewd and crude and vulgar and loud and curse, they gift you. But the moment you begin to start to say something positive, they don't. Something is fundamentally wrong with us. Because it's like a man investing in poison or a woman investing in poison, thinking that their investment is going to flourish. Or taking your money, burning it in the fire, thinking that you're going to get it back some other way. That's exactly what we're doing. Something is wrong if we are basking and lauding and praising vulgarity or vulgarism and lewdness and crudeness to the point where you're disrespecting and dishonoring the sanctity of your parents, your mother in particular. That I cannot even believe that thing was aired. It's a shame and a disgrace. Guys, you know what to do. Read TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe. Give me one of those lions.